Okay. Thanks very much, Julie, for the introduction. Thank you very much to everyone who's logged on this morning to listen in to this session on personal resilience. I suppose before I start, I'll probably just share, that's a nice introduction you gave me, Julie. I sound very important. But basically, just from my own point of view, I suppose a couple of things. It's probably just maybe 7 years ago when I went through redundancy, having worked for a blue chip company, for two blue chip companies for 25 years. So it was around that August 2013. So it was then that I went into coaching. But it's just even the process of going through the redundancy is something that you don't think you're sort of in your late 40s in your life, and you think that you're going to sort of cruise on to your mid 50s and set off the sunset. Well, it obviously didn't happen for me. So having personally gone through something like that is something that I had to dip into my resilience, and I had to look at myself and what am I going to do with my life and where I'm going to go and where's my purpose and stuff like that. So just sort of having lived that experience, it's quite useful to have gone through that. I'm going to share some information about, say, two companies I work with at the moment, where probably in the last 18 months, I've done quite a bit of work with both these companies. One is the GPA. I would work as a personal development coach. I would look after the county footballers and hurlers in Ulster. And it's obviously dealing with young footballers who are trying to manage work, they're trying to manage education, trying to manage career, trying to manage relationships, but at the same time spending the guts of 30 hours a week playing high level football or hurling. So you would be working quite a bit on sort of resilience in that area. And secondly, I work as a career coach with Work and Transitions. They're an English company, and the work I do a lot is with people who go through redundancy. And last year there was a big contract with HMRC where they had 70 people who were going through redundancy, where they closed 3 of their offices in Belfast, Lisburn and Craigavon. So you spend time delivering workshops on personal resilience and doing following up one-to-one coaching with people who, some people had been working there 20 years, some 30, and there's actually one guy who was 1 week short of 40 years. So this is basically just my experience of those, my own personal experience and the experience of the working with those two groups of people. Just like to share some tools, some techniques, and some experience of resilience and how I see it. So hopefully you'll be able to, there'll be some, maybe 1 or 2 nuggets out of today that you'll be able to pick up on. So so if that's okay with you, I'll just I'll share my screen here now. Okay, Julie. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about sort of what actually is resilience, because there's an awful lot of information out there and different sort of viewpoints and different angles. We'll just talk about resilience and the stress-pressure connection. We'll take a look at change and transition. As a former or graduate of Kingston College, where I've done a couple of diplomas, Paula King would be very much talking about the join the CIA. I'm sure so many coaches would know that, the control, influence, accept. And then just look at coping strategies, and just look at a key thing that I use a lot with people who go through redundancy on the CAPS model. It's confidence, adaptability, purpose, and social circle. And then finish off with just sharing some examples. So we'll real life examples of where I feel as though resilience has been shown. So just as a warm-up, actually, I got this one here from Billy Byrne whenever I first joined up for the Dirty Salad Club, and myself, I'm a runner myself, so I can empathize with this one here. So Billy would always start off with a warm-up. So if I could ask you all, just basically from a chat box point of view, just to sort of say, like, if you could tap in sort of how are you feeling today on this. I'm not sure what it's like in different parts of the country. It's dry about Oma here and Tyrone, but so just put down how you feeling today. Okay, so we've got grand, energized, frazzled. There are SIT issues, Neve, yeah. Sinead, feeling productive. Colin, good. Good. Julie, energized. Oh, Rainy, Cork. Okay. Tired but okay. And Lisa, enthusiastic, yeah. Okay, thank you for that. And probably the second question here just is, what would you like to get out of today's session this morning? Just want to put something in the chat box if there's something particular, if it's just a general thing. You could pick some stuff up there, Julie, if you're coming through.
Yeah, so some of the things coming through, people are looking for some practical tips and simple tools that they can put into practice. Hints and tips, connection as well. A few nuggets which Mary could use in her own workshops with staff. And yeah, so basically people seem to be looking for new tools, techniques, and yeah, any different approaches that you may have.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So, just going to talk a wee quick bit about the current climate at the moment. We see a lot of this here now, better days ahead. So it's just interesting from point of view's mindset is, do they view better days ahead, or is that maybe something that's maybe more relevant to other people? If you look at the current climate at the moment, you're looking at workplace changes. At the moment, there's a lot of workplace changes where some people now are not on their office, they're actually working from home, and that has a challenge. So it is from the point of view of where they work. Are they working in their kitchen? And is the kitchen also doubling up as obviously where they eat later on in the afternoon? Some people are wearing protective equipment, which is a workplace change. Some people are actually working different days and different times. They've moved shift work. So there's a workplace change there. Secondly, then there's workforce changes where you're going to work maybe and there's actually less people. There's maybe only half the people in there. There's some people that have been made redundant in companies. So there's a reduction in their workforce. There's also your people are being asked to do different tasks because they're having to share more tasks, maybe if there's less people. And then finally, there's business challenges. Business challenges are, obviously there's financial challenges. So there are technical challenges, there are emotional challenges. And just from talking to a few HR people, we found that some companies were very, very good at working on the technical challenges, setting people up with their workstations at home, setting them up with Zoom, but maybe weren't as great at helping them on the emotional side of things, where people were having to work at home, people have to childmind, they had to manage so many different things and working. So that's just the current climate. So it's quite interesting from your own mindset's point of view, each person. Do you see it as better days ahead, or do you see it as maybe worse days ahead? It'd be quite interesting if you just put into the chat box, is there that quote, better days ahead, that's been put out, how you view things at the moment, and if you would just put a yes or a no to the better days ahead.
Yeah, so far everyone seems to be saying yes and saying better days ahead. I wonder if anyone is going to say no. Everyone is saying yes so far. Yeah, a lot of people saying moving forward, better days ahead. Yeah, but yeah, it'll take time.
Yeah, and Sinead, we still have the flu season, and yes, after that, like.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose that the key to this thing here is actually it's a mindset first. It's the mindset first, and then the behavior follows. So you can look a lot at behavior and study behavior and point out things about people's behavior, but ultimately it's the mindset first. So it's really great to see that people have a mindset that yes, while a bit cautious from the point of view of timing, like. So thank you for that. So just going into a quick definition of resilience, I'm going to throw up 3 quotes here that if you go and look for definitions of resilience at the moment, I mean, we get these quotes, obviously the Rocky Balboa one, you've got a Nelson Mandela one, and a Charles Darwin one. So if you Google resilience, you'll pick up different quotes like this. Okay. And you can right away, you can just have a mindset of, right, that's what resilience is. It's what Nelson Mandela says. It's what Charles Darwin says. It's what Rick Rocky says. But I want to just put up another point here too. Having taken a look at a bit of research, just on Meredith et al. In 2011, she found there was 104 definitions on resilience whenever you went a wee bit deeper in the research. And actually the definitions changed according to what you were specifically emphasized on. So really, when you're ever looking at resilience, you need to really take a look at, is it basic abilities possessed by the individual? Or is it the second one? Is it to do with how they adapt with different events that are taking place? Or actually, is it the third one, where you see them demonstrating positive change after an adversity on the other side? So really, whenever you're looking at this definition, there's just the point I'm trying to make out here, there is no one size fits all here with regards to resilience. So somebody sort of says to you, that's resilience, full stop. It's just being aware about the different contexts that you can view resilience. So you can, and maybe, Julie, I can share, there's the paper that I got this from, and actually they give an example of even just 10 definitions where, so she does itself, not at 104, but that just opens up your mind wider again to your viewpoint. So just be careful whenever you're looking to view resilience, that there's so many areas that you can look into, and if you just go down one of these routes, then you're forgetting about the other routes. Okay. So just looking at the resilience and stress and the stress and pressure connection, like. So as I've done here, but stress is the extent we feel in control of pressure, and there's 4 key areas that it has an impact on. It's obviously an impact on our physical health. So it's an impact on our physical health, both probably maybe from an external point of view, where it could be a simple headache or back pain type thing, but it also hugely damages internally with if you take the stress hormone cortisol and what it can do inside in terms of your health, if you're taking on too much stress and too much pressure, how that can impact on you. It also has a huge impact on our quality of our thinking. Whenever we're good, we're taking on stress as good, positive pressure, we can actually look at alternatives, we can look at options. But then when it's not so good, we become very reactive in our thinking. Thirdly, emotionally, probably that's more to do with how we see a challenge. Do we see something that's only a molehill and we see it as a mountain? So from an emotional point of view, and then obviously our subsequent reaction is going to be maybe larger than what it maybe could be. So that will have a huge impact on how we feel. So managing and controlling our feelings. And finally, how people react to stress and pressure, where there can be quite unhealthy coping behaviors, where people could maybe eat different types of food, or they could maybe move to drugs or alcohol. But only the positive thing about the coping behavior, whenever lockdown happened, we've seen an awful lot of positive coping behaviors, where people started to do more walking, people started to be more creative, people started to raise money, and they had a sense of purpose and community for the nursing fraternity. So therefore, that was one way some people were coping, but other people defaulted to a different coping mechanism. So from my point of view, as personal resilience, it's a toolkit we use to avoid, to try and manage these 4 these 4 areas. So I'm just going to talk about the pressure performance axis. If you see here, I've got an axis, and the axis on the left hand side moving up is performance, and the bottom side is to do with pressure. And ideally, we would be in the middle. We'd be in the positive psychological well-being part in the middle, where you've got a right amount of pressure and you've got a really good performance. If you're in the blue, you're in the rust out, where there's actually low pressure, low performance, and low pressure. And you know, we have to understand that some people actually don't like being bored. Some people really struggle when they've got very little to do. So when you're in that rust out and you've got very little to do and things aren't interesting and things aren't challenging, you can find yourself under a lot of pressure, simply because there's maybe a lack of purpose. You're not very engaged, so you're not. But then when you move to the other side, to the yellow side, where there's too much pressure and there's too much focus on performance, you can move to burnout. You know, and that's where you become sort of highly stressed. You're being over challenged and over engaged. So you have to sort of say to yourself every now and again, you'll probably dip into each of these every now and again, but the ideal place to be is in the middle. So we all need a certain amount of pressure to live and work. So the highly resilient person, they're able to sustain pressure and well-being when facing adverse conditions. Like, they'll recover from and adjust to misfortune or change, and they'll maintain successful performance when under pressure. So the big question to you, I'm not going to ask you, don't have to answer that, but you know, the question you have to ask yourself: where are you at the moment as regards the axis, and then what are you doing to manage yourself when you are in either the rust out or burnout? So when you've got a personal resilience toolkit, you're able to manage yourself better and to sort of take yourself out of the blue and take yourself out of the yellow and bring yourself back into the green. So I'm going to look at this point here about change and transition. You hear a lot of people say, you know, I don't like change, I don't like change, but I suppose change is happening every day, every hour around us. I know about 2 or 3 years ago, I only had 1 bin, now I've got 3 bins. So basically there was an organisational change made by the local council. I then had to adapt my behaviour to put the rubbish out into a different bin. That's a change. We change how we communicate. So we do. I mean, how many years ago? 10 years ago, you didn't have no Twitter, you didn't have no Instagram. So now we change how we watch TV. We pause, we record. How we watch, you know, maybe Netflix, etc., Amazon Prime. There's different things there. So we're constantly changing and evolving all the time. But the biggest challenge for us all is obviously the transition. It's actually this moving from one state to another. That's the challenge for us at the moment, like, because it's an internal issue for us, because the change is external and the transition is internal. So how are we adapting to changes that are taking place? And obviously currently in society at the moment, there's so many changes taking place. So there are, which are external. You have to ask yourself the question: how am I changing internally? How am I, you know, how resilient am I? How adaptable am I? How flexible am I? So that's something you have to be asking yourself. You're unable to change the external, but you are able to manage yourself from an internal point of view. So there's a great book by William Bridges about this, about transition, like, and he talks about it isn't the changes that do you in, it's the transition. So change is not the same as transition. So you can Google William Bridges. It's a really good book. And you have to ask the second question: are you going to something or away from something? So at the moment, some people might be going and working from home, and that might be a real positive because they don't have to drive. And some other people might struggle from working from home because they have a lack of connectivity with people, because they're very outgoing. So just asking yourself, are you going to something or away from something? And the third point here I have down here is that we're all meaning-making machines. Each person is going to give a different meaning to a different situation. A situation has no meaning. An event has no meaning. A fact has no meaning. We all give it a meaning based on our belief systems. So from the point of view of you and taking a step back and processing the information and actually asking yourself, what can I do as regards the transition and the changes that's taken place, and how can I adapt? How can I be flexible? And how can I help myself in the change that's taken place? So when we talk about join the CIA, obviously it's a tool that I would use quite a bit in coaching. Anytime a situation comes along, and this has been used quite a bit with a lot of people recently, it's just having your 3 boxes written down on a piece of paper and asking yourself, which box does this situation fall into? And then whenever you put it in the box, then you will decide, after you've looked at that, what behavior am I going to do? What action am I going to take? And that action, it may be nothing, because it's something you have to accept. There may be some influence. There may be some people you could talk to or make contact with or read up on. And then if it's totally in your control, then you can actually do something about it. So I find this very useful at the moment with a lot of people, because there's so many people they've got stuff that's in the accept box and they're trying to control it. So just this use of this tool can actually be very helpful. I mean, the example I use all the time is the rain. If it's raining outside, you've no control of it, but you can influence the situation by wearing a coat and putting up an umbrella. But some people just want to complain, so they do. So therefore, that's just a simple analogy, but it's a case of you taking things that are more relevant to you as a person and putting them into one of these boxes. That then would determine your subsequent behavior after that. So I'm just going to take a wee look here at some of the coping strategies that I would use with clients. And we're actually going to go in to do some breakout groups, so we are to do some work on this. It's actually just. So there's the four coping strategies. And the first one is very much about confidence, where your feelings of confidence are in coping in stressful situations. The second one's about adaptability. Third one's about your sense of purpose. So obviously links in values, motivation. And the fourth one is about social support and the connectivity you have with different people, whether it's at work or at home, friends, etc. So rather than coping on your own, you've got a group of people to work with. So we just want to just look through those there, and then what I'm looking to do here is actually, I want you to sort of have a look and say, which of these would be my default strategy whenever I'm under a bit of pressure and I have to dip into my resilience. So I just want you to, what is your default? And then I want you to take a look and sort of say, right, well, which one do I not use? And which one maybe could I use a wee bit more? To those two questions. Okay, we have 12 participants. Okay, so if I break these up into 4 rooms, 3 participants per room, and you can have say 4 or 5 minutes just to discuss these, and then we can go back and then we can have a bit of a discussion on these? Okay, thank you for that and those rooms. Does anybody would like to do? There's a Julie. There's a. Can you take, as a co-host? Can you take Deepi's Randani's question there?
I haven't able to see that. I don't think. I think
All right.
it
Okay.
goes directly to you.
Right.
I think maybe if you close the breakout rooms, if you're able to.
Yeah. Yeah, I've closed them. Okay, so she'll come out. She'll come in after that now.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. Thank you. So would anybody like to share from the point of view of coping strategies, those 4 coping strategies, and what they maybe default to and would use and what would one maybe that they might say, I never thought as much of that, but it's maybe something that I could use.
Seanie, in our room, we were surprised to find that the social support one is the one we don't tend to cope.
Right. Okay.
Which was really interesting, and 2 of us are coaches and 1 isn't.
Right.
Yeah, confidence and adaptability were probably the 2 that were the most go-to. But our conversation kind of went, ooh, this is really fascinating. Why not the social support one?
Okay. No, that's great, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. And what we'll go into sort of like the 5 areas of social support we can actually look then. We'll be looking at now in a few minutes about what the 5 areas are, and then even within that, you can sort of say, well, maybe we could move more of that one or that one. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. And the other groups, I'd like to share.
That was actually similar to what we were saying in our group. It was the social support. We were both like Fadama and I were saying that often we'll kind of, if things get really stressful, sort of retreat a little bit into ourselves. Yeah, and just kind of like, okay, let me deal with this first, and then I'll connect with other people. I wonder if, as coaches and psychologists and that, like, I wonder if that's a thing, like we're trying to solve some kind of problem ourselves, or like we should be able to manage this. I wonder if that's a common thing for
I would honestly think that there would be a thing that we would challenge ourselves first, and really and truly, I should sort this out myself. I should know what to do, and use the should word a bit there and fall back in. And then if I go to ask somebody, is it my maybe my ego and my identity that I don't want to sort of become vulnerable. When we know ourselves, when we work as coaches, that when people are vulnerable and open up, that then the thing can move out wider, and we'll all learn. So thank you for sharing that, Julie. The other group, anybody like to share?
We were kind of the other way around with that.
Right.
we were both going to social support probably first, either naturally or have learnt to do that through kind of experience. In terms of how it can sometimes impact if you don't do that, and you're sort of churning things around in your head, and just learning that a problem shared sometimes can be a problem halved, but recognising that that in itself has its own challenges too. You may need to be a bit discerning about which bits you pick out and what you take ownership of from doing the social networking bit. And then probably confidence might be the least one we might go to, depending on what the issue was. Maybe what experience we had around it previously, that kind of thing. And that the purposefulness and the adaptability would come once we'd kind of got our heads around the issue and could think about where we wanted to go with it. We might then start to develop some strategies to deal with it, even if they were little steps that when we then looked back, we could see that we'd been on a bit of a journey.
Okay. That's super. No, thank you. That's almost like a wee process you have there, like, the social support, the confidence, the purpose, adaptability, the way that you can use the 4 almost in line. We can. Yeah, thank you. And the last group, anybody want to share from the last group? Lucia, can you unmute yourself?
Hiya.
How you keeping?
We were a little bit differing. For me, the social support was strong, and the adaptability, I think, was strong for the other two.
Okay. You're being adaptable now, Sinead. So you are.
I am, yeah.
Isn't it great to have a live example? So it is, like, you know, as you're adapting with taking part in this here and managing your children. I just love it, Sinead. Like, you know.
And maybe that's why I'm feeling that I'm not being adaptable right now.
No, you are. It's your mindset. You are being adaptable. So you are. You know. Okay. So, thank you for sharing that. I'll just go back now, just to the screen. So we've looked at that. We're just going to look now just a bit deeper into each of these. So looking at confidence, for me, confidence comes in two areas: competence and ability, which is looking at your strengths, your skills; your self-efficiency, which is your belief in your ability to carry out a task; your competency, how competent are you? You know, competence leads to confidence. And finally, having a positive mindset. Whenever an event takes place, do you default to the left or default to the right? And the second part of confidence is interpersonal confidence. You know, how assertive are you? Whenever conflict comes along, do you avoid it or address it? For anyone who's done the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode, they'll be able to understand that. I mean, where's my default when it comes to conflict? Do I run away? Can I hold my own in a discussion? I'm sitting with 4 or 5 people. I've got a viewpoint. I've got an opinion. Can I express my opinion and hold my own? And lastly, do I take on challenges? Do I see challenges as risks, or do you see them as learning opportunities? So when you're looking at competence, I would actually do an online test on this, and you find that some people are 7 out of 10 in competence and ability, and only 3 out of 10 in interpersonal competence. So when you're looking at competence, you need to break it down to see, is it the ability part or is it the interpersonal competence? Because you could actually then try to fix the wrong problem. So you could. So looking at confidence there, you have to ask your whole thing about, and the positive psychology part is very much all about strengths. You know, looking at what you do well, what you can do. So that's the one on confidence. Okay. Secondly, just looking at adaptability. It's just got a series of questions here. Suppose adaptability again is very much about mindset first and behavior second. So, like, how calm and composed are you when it comes from an adaptability point of view? How are your beliefs serving you? Have you strong beliefs that are stopping you and preventing you from being adaptable? Like, what meaning are you giving to uncertainty? At the moment, we have a lot of uncertainty, but it's fantastic whenever the question was asked earlier on about better times ahead. You were given a positive meaning to it. You might say there might be an element of time, but the fact that you gave a positive meaning to the current uncertainty is really good. You know, are you learning new tasks at the moment? Was there an opportunity there to learn new? So was there people doing online courses, where they're dipping into something that they hadn't been able to do this last while because they were so busy? So, because like they say, like, you know, old problems will not be sorted by old thinking. So you need to be creating new thinking at the moment, and that might mean that you have to learn a new skill. How flexible and open-minded are you? If you're being asked to do different jobs at work because of different changes that are taking place, how flexible are you? And how are you adjusting to different environments? Some people have changed to the environments fantastically well, and some people are really, really struggling at the moment with a change in environment. So adaptability, you know, we talked about mindset, then behavior. So there's this quote from Joseph Campbell, you know, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So having a look at this thing about adaptability, everybody has a preference of how we like things. If we do any testing, we find out our preferences. But, you know, it could be the opposite side of our preference is the cave that we're not going into. And you have to ask yourself a question, you know, can I step into that other side? It's not a natural preference for me, but can I step over to the other side and be more adaptable? based on the current climate. Thirdly, going to talk about purpose. And purpose is very much linked to goals, but having that future focused, you're looking at something ahead of you from a purpose point of view. So do you set goals? And secondly, are you achieving goals? So, you know, how, you know, do you make promises? If you make promises, are you keeping promises? Whenever a challenge comes along, are you reframing the challenge and focus on an ideal outcome? And what are you holding on to when things get difficult? Whenever things get difficult at the moment, do you have that bigger purpose? You know, I know when I went through my redundancy 7 years ago, you know, I had a bigger purpose. I had a, you know, maybe I had things like, you know, I'd get my children through education. I had obviously had a mortgage to pay and stuff like that. Like, you know, so there was always a bigger purpose looking forward down the line that I had to focus on these important things to sort of get me up and going again and do things to come out of that. And finally, your values. You know, which ones are you honoring and which one are you letting slip? Because whenever tough times come along, you can start let a few of your values slip, and you'll probably know that because you'll feel that in your gut, but you still maybe start to do these things. Like, so there's finally that last question: what are you prepared to take a stand on with regards to your values and your purpose? And finally, social support. And if you look at the 5 areas of social support, there's obviously the emotional support where you're giving reassurance to people. You're actually listening, you know, and you're listening from an understanding point of view. You're showing concern. There's the esteem support where you're showing encouragement, you know, showing respect, giving confidence to other people, praising a colleague when they've done something well. There's a network support, just being available for somebody, you know, on the phone or whatever, letting them know that you're there and you're willing to help. You know, I know we don't go out now as much for coffees, but even having online coffees where you're touching base with someone just to be on Zoom for a 15-minute coffee, like keeping people involved in your network of support. There's the basic practical support, you know, just helping with sort of maybe goods or services, you know, helping a person on a project just to work. I mean, you're in an office and you see somebody that's snowed under. Do you offer practical? Is there something there I could take off you because my workload's a wee bit low at the moment? Do you offer practical support, or do you just stay in your own wee nest? And finally, is that information support, which is very much sort of providing facts, providing advice, providing figures. You know, just helping people with tasks. You know, that just some people just aren't aware of a certain element of something that actually would help them. That you, if you were looking for information, you can go there. If you're looking for support on that, he's the best person to ask. So when you look at social support, you know, it's asking yourself, like, if I do support people, which am I strong at, and which could actually I look at to maybe do a wee bit more. So I'm actually just going to share an example just from the point of view. Obviously, it's you know, it's probably because I'm doing this myself. I just want to share a couple of examples, right, of personal resilience, of things that I went through, and I linked purpose to them, and there was confidence linked to them, and there was adaptability linked to them, and there was social circle linked to them. As a runner, I had a goal. Whenever I was 16 years of age and I was at the Dublin Marathon, my father ran 2:55. He was a runner, so I got the running genes within the family. I finished playing football in 2000, and I started running at this goal of running the 3-hour marathon. First marathon I ran October 2002. I ran 3:24. I struggled, I stopped, and I was walking on O'Connell Street at 23 mile. But eventually I got there. But I still had this goal, you know, from 2002 to run a sub 3-hour marathon. So as I got older, you know, basically 2002, move on 2017, 15 years later, I moved from being 36 to 51, and around 2:59. So I did. And probably the biggest driver for me was the purpose. You know, the purpose of obviously my father being a runner and having done it as well. I changed a coach. I contacted Gary O'Hanlon in Dublin, and he's a coach, and he wrote out a 16-week plan for me. because what I was doing previously wasn't getting me where I wanted to get to. So I knew how to change my training. So I linked up with a couple of different runners around home as regards social support. So it was, and actually I had to change my training as well, because I had to do more strength training in my legs. I had to go to the gym more often, because I was actually getting breaking my calves, where I was getting out of pain in my calves, and I wasn't dealing with it. So when you take the 4 key areas of confidence and social support and adaptability and purpose, I put them all together, and lo and behold, then I was able to achieve a goal. So it was from the point of view of something that was very important to me in my life, and probably a level of resilience. I'm going to share you another one here, and obviously there's a level of nepotism in this. There's nepotism in that with me, but I'm going to share you another one too, just from the point of view of my son. You know, my son played in an All-Ireland quarter-final for Tyrone against Donegal, and he was taken off injured. And the next morning at 8 o'clock, we were in Belfast for the MRI scan. 2 days later, we're up again, and we were basically showing the MRI scan. They had cracked a bone just below his knee, and he'd be back playing football in 8 weeks' time, is what the doctor said. Half an hour later, myself, and the physio met outside at 9 o'clock in Belfast. And the first question he asked is, what do I need to do to be on the field in 3.5 weeks' time in the All-Ireland final against Dublin? That was the question he asked. They then put in place things like he had bought an oxygen tent. The county board bought an oxygen tent. He had to get 2 machines, 2 bone machines. He had to sit for 12 hours a day with an ice machine. So that was him at the All-Ireland semi-final against Monaghan. And then 3 weeks later, that's him playing in the match, you know, against Dublin, and it's sort of a goal in your life when you're a young fella, especially down Tyrone here, but playing the All-Ireland final. So really just sort of dipping into this thing where the first key thing here was mindset. The first question was asked is, what do I need to do to be on the field in 3.5 weeks' time, even though the doctor has shown me an x-ray with a cracked bone in my knee and I not be playing in 8 weeks' time. From the mindset point of view then to the behaviour, am I prepared to behave? Am I prepared to sit in my house for 12 hours? Am I prepared to use these machines? Am I prepared to sleep in a oxygen tent? Am I prepared to keep my diet right? And then ultimately to get to a goal from an example of resilience. So that's just sharing. Appreciate, you know, it's a family thing, but I just feel this was a useful thing to share. So really the question I'm asking everybody here, it's on here. Like the first step I'm going to take to further develop my resilience is, if you could, you know, write that down on a piece of paper, you know, from regards to taking something away, because as a lot of people who are on this here, obviously we're coaches, we're always sort of looking at, you know, what's my action I'm going to take away from this, like. So the key is to write, you know, you must write something down, as you know yourself. If it's not written down, it's unlikely. You're 40% more likely to achieve something if you write it down. Okay. And thank you. Thank you very much. I just see it's 11:52. So it is. So from time wise, we're okay there, and with time left now for any questions. So that's just my details there, and I'll just stop sharing here and just open up the group. So Julie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Johnny. That was really interesting. And yeah, thank you so much as well for everyone who joined us and contributed. And I suppose, yeah, we can hang around for a couple of more minutes if anyone has any questions or comments or things they want to discuss. And yeah, keep an eye out for our future events. We'll be having another Dirty Salad Club session, so I'll be emailing details about that in the coming weeks. So yeah, we'll open it up to anyone who wants to share any comments or insights or questions.
My handwriting, if I can read it, is not great, but yeah, I really enjoyed it and I got a lot out of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that.
Bye, everyone.
I have a question.
Okay.
It was very insightful what you shared. I just have a question on resilience, that as an average adult, how much time is optimal? How much time is considered optimal to bounce back? I mean, when there's a situation in your life, we all tend to get bogged down, but how much time should we ideally give ourselves if we call ourselves psychologists or counselors? How quickly should we be able to be bounce back?
I don't think you can put a time, Perth. I don't think you can put a time on it. There will be people will bounce back after a day, a week, and there will some people take longer. They could take months, so they can. I just think it's very difficult to sort of attach a time to something for someone, how they are able to come back out of a really difficult situation. Like, so probably, I know I'm not giving you an answer, but just knowing from the different people that I dealt with last year, the 60 to 70 people to the redundancy thing, some people have dealt with it really well and picked it up, and some people had found it so much more difficult and attached, they stayed on it a lot longer. So
okay, so as long as they come back, as long as they come back.
Yeah, as long as they're coming back, yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Anyone else?
Just to say thank you for the, splitting out the confidence issues. I think it was quite enlightening for me to see that split into two different sections.
Okay.
Because it can be quite hard to unpick what is it that's causing you confidence, and yeah, I can resonate with those two areas personally, and can see how they both would impact on each other, but I might not have seen that in quite that way if you hadn't have described it like that. So that can be useful, I think, individually, but also when you're working with a client who has got potentially wanting to increase their self-confidence, because that quite often comes up in coaching conversations. It can just help to give a bit of a focus, hopefully. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I would find with footballers, when the county footballers, you'd find that they've got the reason they've got to the county panel is because they've got fantastic ability. Otherwise they wouldn't be getting selected. And most of the issues you're dealing with there is the interpersonal, but they've moved into a new environment, and they could be a big fish in a small pond in their own club, and now they're in the county setup, and they're actually quite a wee fish in a big pond. And how do they manage those relationships and characters in the changing rooms? How do they manage the manager and all the other coaches? Can they be assertive at asking questions of, I'm working really hard there, I'm training really hard, but I'm never getting a game. And they pull back, and they don't want to ask. So they don't, because they think there's going to be conflict and this manager's going to turn down. So helping build their interpersonal competence that they could sort of challenge a wee bit more and ask the right question, I find has really helped a lot of young players in environments like that. So thank you. I'm glad it's been useful for yourself, Bridget.
No, thank you. No, that helps again to put another dynamic on it, just thinking about how you can use it with family as well, son who's gone to high school, that kind of thing, when they're suddenly in that new environment. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Seanie, that was fantastic. You mentioned, to Bridget's point, there could be there's a tool available to measure the confidence. You're talking about 7. You put a number on it earlier, I think.
Yeah.
Is there an assessment tool to measure confidence?
Well, it's part of a bigger, wider. It's part of a mental toughness thing that I do with this confidence and commitment, control, and what's the other? The 4 C's. So it happens to be one area out of it, and it really breaks it down into the 2 areas. So it controls the last one: control, life control, and emotion control. So I can connect with you on LinkedIn and so I can send you some information on it, Audrey.
Fantastic, thank you. That would be fantastic. Appreciate that.
And Seanie, just to come in, great session. Thanks a mil for that. I suppose just an observation, and I suppose you used the word mindset, a number of times, and I think really it is that ability to be able to nearly press the kind of the pause and the refocus button to get yourself back on track with that mindset.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good, because that's the key. Obviously, the behavior follows the mindset. So unless you have sort of got the mindset thing right, if you're constantly trying to change the behavior with the old mindset, then that can be very, very, very difficult. Yeah. So looking more into that mindset and what's your natural preference and what could maybe I default to and try differently, and that's probably the adaptability. How can I see things differently?
Yes. Yeah.
you know, what's the quote, like, you know, like, stop trying to change the situation and change your perspective on the situation.
Yeah.
If you can adopt that one there, it will be helpful there. So thank you, Lucia. Thank you. Okay. Any more? Barbara, Fidelma, are you okay?
No, I'm grand. It was very good, and I think everyone else has kind of picked up on anything that I was thinking. So thanks very much for that. Great.
Absolutely, it was great. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Fidelma. Okay.